Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara. I'm here to welcome you into the world of orgasmic living by hosting experts to discuss orgasmic topics such as nutrition, spirituality, personal development, sexuality, and much more. Here, we will offer lifestyle lessons that can help you lead a fulfilling, joyous, and orgasmic lifestyle. I'm your guide, Venus O'Hara. Welcome to episode 76 of the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with Venus O'Hara. In this first quarter moon episode, we'll discuss self-discipline. We'll be speaking with Giovanni Diesnstmann, a self-discipline coach and author of the book Mindful Self-Discipline, Living with Purpose and Achieving Your Goals in a World of Distractions. I also review the book The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. The episode ends with a guided meditation with affirmations for self-discipline. But first, let me share with you my opinion and experience and struggles with self-discipline. Oh my God, I feel so bad for not publishing a podcast episode for over a month now. Yeah, it's really bad. And it's ironic that the topic of today is self-discipline when I've failed miserably with my own self-discipline. But I've learned something very, very valuable, and I think I'm going to start making content in bulk so that when I'm extra busy, I'm not going to miss out on some publishing dates. Yes, because I'm trying to publish, full moon, new moon, third quarter, first quarter. And I have a good excuse. I was writing a book. It's called Orgasmic Manifestation. It's going to be out in the autumn. And I had a choice. It was trying to do everything I need to do not very well or focus 100% on the book. And I decided to choose the latter because the book is a one-time thing. I have a publishing deal, whereas my YouTube and my podcast had to kind of go on the back burner for a while. And it was kind of frustrating because in the backlog, I have some incredible guests lined up on this podcast that I'll be publishing over the next few weeks. And so I wasn't going to, the podcast is not dying at all. It's actually going to become stronger and stronger and stronger. And I'm so thrilled with all the guests coming my way and new opportunities. Also, just after I handed the book in, which was incredible, it's an incredible experience actually writing this book about sex magic and my own experience and my own techniques. I had no writer's block at all. It was constant flow. It was like it was being channeled to me, and I cannot wait to share more with you. And then just after that, I had the sex toy fair, Eero Spain, here in Barcelona, which is one of the biggest sex toy B2B fairs in the world. And it's interesting because I've been in this sector now for 10 years in the sex toy sector. I've been a sexual wellness content creator for 15 years. And as you probably know, if you've been following me, I'm getting more and more into the wellness space. And on the first night of the sex toy fair, we were having a cocktail event on a rooftop in Barcelona. And I was wondering, are these my people? Because I do feel more aligned with more kind of, let's say, personal development and wellness topics now than sex toys, let's say. But then something very interesting happened on the first day of the fair. There was someone who follows me, someone from Africa, and they were saying that they watched my content to help them promote pleasure in order to combat female genital mutilation. And I was like, oh my God, it made me very emotional to think that when you make content, you have no idea who is listening, who is watching, and what the impact is. And then that helped me to realign with my mission of promoting pleasure, because pleasure is so important. And that's my mission, is to help women especially to prioritize pleasure and self-love. Holistic self-love is how I like to call it, which encompasses everything I do, from promoting the best foods and different practices, meditation, books, and of course sexual wellness. And I also spoke to another woman who has been in our sector for a very long time, and she left the sector for about a year to work in the beauty industry, thinking that would be a bit more legitimate. Because I think sometimes we, even in our sector of sexual wellness, we are victims of judgment, censorship. And sometimes we can even question ourselves. Is it really good what I'm doing? Is it scandalous? Is it taboo? Or am I helping people to overcome taboo? I have a lot of those questions myself. Anyway, this particular person who went to work in the beauty industry told me, it's just really quite superficial in the sense that it thrives on the fact that people don't feel good about themselves, and it's like, buy this in order to make you feel better, which is really not an empowering message, depending on what the product is, of course, because everyone is using some types of beauty products, and if you're going to use something, it's always best to use the most natural thing possible. And so that was an interesting reflection. And I met so many people who were following me, watching my videos, and it felt I became more and more aligned with my mission as the days went by. So yeah, I'm very back on the pleasure track and back on track with my publishing here. So I'm really thrilled to be back and enjoying some more self-discipline. And I cannot wait to share this interview with you today. He's very different, Giovanni Diesnstmann. He couldn't be more different from the last guest I had, who was Connor Keys, who is I would call him my spiritual mentor now. He has a very different approach to life. So I've been between these two disciplines in the last month or so. So the Taoist, the tree just grows to self-discipline. And something I love about Giovanni's book, which is called Mindful Self-Discipline, that I already reviewed here a couple of episodes ago, is that he talks about self-discipline as being an act of self-love, and everything you do could be like, is it a +1 towards your goal, or is it a -1? And I kind of think that's a good thing to bear in mind when we make daily decisions, and that's what I'm trying to focus on right now. So in the future, I'm going to be making some bulk content, so I never get in this position of not being able to spin all my plates at the same time, because right now I'm in a period of absolute growth, which is amazing, because I asked for abundance, I got abundance, I'm getting abundance, but with that comes the challenge of time management and, of course, perfection. I want to do everything as well as I can and be as consistent and clear with my message as possible so that you can be inspired by it. Anyway, I thank you so much for being here. If you're listening right now after my absence, I really appreciate it. And there's more great things to come. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you enjoy this interview. Do you want to upgrade your life? If so, check out my free meditation, my Life Upgrade Meditation. This meditation is very powerful. It contains 100 very powerful affirmations that correspond to the 12 areas of life from the Wheel of Life. And those areas include things like money, professional career, friends, family, relationships, sexuality, personal development, contribution to society, home environment, and much more. If you're curious about this very powerful transformative meditation, then check out the link in the show notes. And if you haven't got the show notes at hand, then the link is bit.ly/life, capital LIFE, hyphen, capital UPGRADE, upgrade, hyphen, meditation with a capital M. The link is also in the show notes. So if you would like to upgrade your life, check out my free Life Upgrade Meditation. Now it's time for this episode's interview. We'll be speaking with Giovanni Diesnstmann, a self-discipline coach and author of the book Mindful Self-Discipline, Living with Purpose and Achieving Your Goals in a World of Distractions. Giovanni Diesnstmann, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. Thank you so much for taking part in this interview today. For those who are unfamiliar with your work, could you tell us what you do?
I am a self-mastery coach, meditation teacher, and author. I help people master their minds so that they can live life more aligned with their values and achieve their goals. So in a nutshell, that's it.
And what inspired you to follow this path?
Well, since I was 14 years old, I was interested in meditation, personal development, spirituality, and reading heaps of books on these topics. And I was always moved by this idea of expanding ourselves and growing ourselves and having a mastery of our internal world, our thoughts, our emotions, our impulses, etc. And in many philosophical and spiritual traditions that I studied, that was the key theme. So initially, this was just my own journey. I was having a nothing to do with my job. I was having a normal work initially with law, then with IT. But about 10 years ago, I quit my 9 to 5 to just do this work full time.
Amazing. I always sometimes wonder because I had a spiritual awakening in 2017, and I often wonder what life would have been like if I'd started my personal development journey, when I was about 14. So I wonder how life would be different. Because I think it's but when I look at younger friends who are in their 20s and they're, spiritual and into personal development, I'm kind of glad that I wasn't into that then, because I think it's good to have some kind of reference of the dark side. I don't know, that kind of helps sometimes.
I think there's a point where there's a point in our life where these awakenings can happen better,
Yeah,
and it's not going to be in the teenage times for everybody.
yeah.
For some people, it's going to be in their 50s or 60s, and
Mm.
there's no need to compare. I think it happens at the right time for everybody.
Definitely. And I think Sadhguru said the person who's going out partying and the person who's meditating, they both have the same goal, really. It's just to feel good inside, I guess.
Right,
Yeah, it's a different path.
right.
So let's talk about your book, Mindful Self-Discipline. Um, so what
Look at
is,
that.
yeah, I finished it yesterday. I have
Wow,
a
it's a thick
shelf over
book.
here. I know it's a big book, and
Congratulations.
I have a shelf where it's like the fourth shelf down. It's all my podcasts, guests, books, because I'm an avid reader and I get to speak to authors after I finish the book. So it's something I'm incredibly grateful for because it's reading's a very solitary activity, but then you get to speak to the author. It's a massive privilege. But so what is mindful self-discipline? How does it vary from normal self-discipline? And what inspired
Right.
you to write something about self-discipline?
Yes. Well, I was told repeatedly that I'm very disciplined, and
Mm.
I didn't think of myself that way. I just felt like, you know what, there are certain things that I care about, there's certain things that I want, and then obviously I'm going to take action on it. What other way is there? Like that was my thinking. But then over time, I realized like, no, this is a big challenge for many people. And I started coaching people on self-discipline, and I was coaching also on three other topics, but self-discipline was the most popular one. Is There was like such a hunger for this, so I decided to write a book back in 2020. um, Most of the work on self-discipline out there, it's very military. It's kind of
Mm.
very martial. It's that mental toughness approach, that it's all about beating yourself up and being tough and staying on track, etc. And that works for some people, but it's not for everybody, and it does take a lot of energy. And I felt that, to being a meditation teacher, my approach to self-discipline was different, and many people were resonating with that. And so, thinking a lot about these differences, I realized that my approach is more of an awareness-based approach. That self-discipline should not be self-punishment. It's actually self-respect. It is you keeping your promises to yourself. It is you living life aligned with your goals and with your values. And when you live like that, when you act like that, you end up liking yourself more, and you experience greater self-esteem, greater self-confidence, you live better. So for most people, seeing self-discipline under this different light, this more holistic, perhaps gentler way of seeing, that is what allows them to say, like, you know what, this is actually what I needed, and now I'm moving forward in this path.
But did you think that a lot of your clients needed accountability, just to kind of become more disciplined?
Some do. Some people will need accountability. Other people, they just need to be guided for a while until they kind of understand that, self-discipline is a different way of thinking. Just like not having self-discipline is a particular way of thinking. So once they understand how to think through the lenses of self-discipline, then they can do it on their own. But for other people, they will always benefit from, or perhaps even need, some level of accountability.
Okay, I'd love to share my takeaways with you after reading the
Uh-huh.
book. So the first thing I really noticed about this book, it's a big book. I loved the diagrams and frameworks in it. I think that makes it very inviting. You know, if it was just a big block of text, it would be more, you know, you need more discipline to get through it. But I just read 50 pages in the first sitting, just like, you know, so because I always make time to read with my coffee in the morning. That's kind of like my time when I'm always learning something. Was that on purpose? Do you kind of create it a more visual experience for the reader?
In one or two books that I've read, there were lots of diagrams, and I felt as a reader, I loved that. It was
Mhm.
so helpful. And I wouldn't say that I'm particularly a
Mhm.
visual learner, but still I found it helpful. So I felt like, wow, imagine for people who are visual learners, they're just going to love this. And I explore that in my book in mindful self-discipline, and from then onward I'm using this, and I used it in the other book as well, because it really helps consolidate those
Mhm.
concepts. Otherwise we can get lost. So you learn something and then you see the diagrams summarizing that thing, you're much more likely to remember it.
Yeah, and I also love at the end of each chapter you've got the key points because that's something. Because sometimes when we're reading a lot, we can just be looking at words, you know, and then to have key points is very, very helpful. And one thing I
Mm.
really loved at the beginning as well is between you and your goal is self-discipline. So I kind of love that. There's actually a little graph about that. Would you say that's
Mhm.
true for most things? Because I think it has a lot to do with it, you know, just actually making that day-to-day effort and making things happen.
It depends on how we see self-discipline. If self-discipline is only about habits and routine, then it's most goals. But if self-discipline is about acting in alignment with our values, and that's not just habits and routines, then
Mm,
yes, it's for everything. Whatever goal we want to achieve, it's a journey from A to B, from where you
mm,
are now to where you want to be. And in
mm,
that journey, you are guaranteed to meet several obstacles: distractions, procrastination, excuses, fears, doubts, lack of motivation. The list goes on. And it's only
mm,
with the power of self discipline that you'll be able to meet those challenges and continue on the journey until you can achieve that goal, whatever that is. So, whether it is a career goal, a financial um, goal of improving your relationship, growing spiritually, whatever it is, it's a journey of change. And in that journey, self discipline is what helps you stay consistent until the end.
mm. One thing I loved about it as well is that you said self-discipline is self-love because I'm all about holistic self-love. This podcast is all about holistic self-love, just prioritizing self-care, self-love in all areas of life. That's the orgasmic lifestyle, it's like climax in all areas. So I really loved that as well. And that's something that's been lacking in my life. So it was actually a godsend when I got to read your book. It was something that I really needed. And I love the distinction between this is something that I've really it's been really helpful for me personally. Distinction between the instant gratification and long-term goals. That's something that's kind of interesting. 'Cause it inspired me actually. I mean, two things I've actually taken on board. I started reading this book at the beginning of April, so it's taken me 2 weeks, but I've gone completely whole foods plant-based. I mean, I've been a vegan for a long time, but I was kind of eating what I wanted. And if I wanted something sweet, I would just do that. And then I've kind of like, you know, fallen off the bandwagon in terms of going to the gym and stuff. So I've kind of become more disciplined about that because I really want to lose 5 kilos. I just really, it's just between me and the goal is self-discipline, so I can do it. So because I have, even though self-discipline is lacking, I have perseverance is something that I'm quite good at. So once I decide something, but it's yes, applying that self-discipline to these other goals and just eating home food, you know, all the time. And that's kind of cool. And then I'm sharing it on my
Mm.
stories to try and inspire people to, you know, eat more kind of plant-based food at home, and it's not that difficult. So that's something that's really, really helped me. And that's something I really loved as well is so can you talk to us about the this difference between instant gratification and long-term goals?
Mhm. Yes.
Mhm,
So, using that example that you mentioned of Sadhguru, we all are seeking to feel good. That is
mhm,
inherent in human nature. But if we satisfy that seeking energy with small things repeatedly, all the time that takes zero effort, then our brain is not going to have any motivation to go after long-term goals, to go after joys and fulfillments that are deeper, but they are not immediate and they require time, effort, patience, right? And so that's the main problem with distractions, is not so much the time that we're wasting. Right? If you waste an hour in distractions every day, the problem is not only that you have an hour less to work on important goals. The problem is that we are training our brain to seek satisfaction, to seek happiness through instant gratification, right? It's the I call this junk dopamine in the
Mm.
book. Like it's the fast food of happiness. Like it takes zero effort. You just scroll a little bit in the app. You watch something funny. You kind of click here, comment there, etc. And there's a sense of joy. You experience some release of dopamine, and then that's it. And it's finished, right? It's a little bit like junk food. You eat. It's quick. It's easy. It doesn't take any effort. It's immediately ready, but it doesn't really have the nutrients you need to be healthy. The same thing, instant gratification doesn't have the nutrients we need psychologically to feel fulfilled.
And also the aftermath feeling is not a good one in general. It's usually quite a bad one.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think a lot of people struggle these days with social media being a massive distraction, smartphones in general. I think our attention span has just gone right down. Did you have any tips for that?
I would love everyone to get out of social media. That's what
Okay.
I recommend to many people. I don't have any social media apps on my phone. And you say, but
Mm.
Giovanni, I can find you on Instagram and YouTube. Yes, there are videos of me on Instagram and YouTube. I have a team that every day they're publishing the videos, but I'm not using those platforms, right? And they're not the main thing for my own business, because that wouldn't be aligned. So for me, the more I limit or the more I'm mindful about my use of technology, and limit it to certain times of the day and certain uses, the happier I feel and the more centered and focused I feel. It's very real. Not everyone will notice that, because it does require some awareness. It does require you to have the courage to kind of step aside from all of this flurry of information for a period of time, and then you realize that's doing to you, and then you will not miss it. You will want to really establish different rules and principles of how you interact with technology.
Mm. I think I saw something on your website about saying not to follow you or something. Was it something like that on your website?
Yeah, in the footer, don't follow me on social media.
Okay, going back to more of my takeaways, because there's been so many of them. I love this concept of like a plus one or a minus one about, is this activity taking me to my purpose? Could you explain that to
Mhm.
us?
It's a shortcut. It's a way to think about things in the moment that give us immediate clarity. um, like you want to, using your own goal as an example, you want to lose weight. In a moment, you may feel like eating an extra bite of the cheesecake, or maybe eating the
Mm.
first bite of the cheesecake. And in the moment, there may not be so much awareness. You're not thinking about your goals necessarily in that moment. You're thinking about how delicious that experience is going to be. But in the moment, if you ask yourself, is this going to be a plus one or minus one in my life? Sometimes just having that question surface in our consciousness is enough for, like, you know what, this is actually not helping me.
Mhm.
And so it's a shortcut. The more we ask ourselves this question, the more we see. And working with clients, sometimes they tell me that they don't want to ask that question, because they know that if they ask, they will see that it's a minus one, and they don't want to see because they want to indulge. I said, that's fine, but even in that case, you should be aware of that, right? It should be fully truthful to yourself. I call this radical self-honesty in the book, that if you want to make an exception, if you want to say, like, you know what, I'm going to delay my goal a little bit so that I can enjoy this here and now, fine, as long as it's a conscious decision and you're not, turning the eye and kind of pretending that it's not there, then you're living with awareness.
If me now, I'm having scheduled indulgences. So I have one meal out of the weekend, eat whatever I want. And then also, yeah, that includes dessert as well. So that's kind of something I really look forward to, rather than just having
Mm.
a chocolate bar on a Tuesday. It's more like that's going to be Saturday. kind of thing. And it's actually working so far, like week 3 of April. So let's hope hopefully it will carry on. And also I love this idea of I can't remember how you worded it exactly, but you said something about, maybe creating distance from people in your life who are not really on the path with you of you trying to get to your goals. And you said something like people who find problems in every solution as opposed to people who find the other way around, solutions for every problem. So I think sometimes we feel guilty about, it's interesting because I gave up alcohol and tobacco and became vegan, recently, and I've had friends say to me, "Oh, it's a pity you don't drink anymore." And it's interesting that when you are, let's say, in a bad state, you have lots of friends around you because you create this state of empathy, among your friends. But once you take a good decision for yourself, sometimes people are not so happy for you, and it's hard to kind of think, who really wants me to thrive? Because those are the real friends, the ones who are going to be your cheerleaders. But I think people have these, social circles in place, and it's or even familiar ones, as family ones as well, and it's quite hard. How can we be
Yes.
disciplined about our social life and who's influencing us?
Yeah. It's big. It's perhaps the only shortcut of self-discipline,
Mm,
to kind of surround yourself with people who are on the same path that you are, or perhaps they have already achieved the goal that you want to achieve. That invisible influence that happens on us, if we can surround ourselves with people who are living what we want to live, or that we're striving to live, that is going to make things so much easier. There are a lot of research showing how we tend to consciously or unconsciously adopt the same habits, the same goals, the same preferences and way of thinking of the people we spend time with. So knowing that that is the case, it's a deeply ingrained in our brain. Then we need to be very mindful, very wise about the companies we have in our life. And when we start making a change, some of our old friendships and companies are not going to like that.
mm,
They are not going, they belong to our past, but they're not going to belong to our future, because we are changing, and our aspirational identity, the person we want to be, wouldn't necessarily have those people as friends, would have a different sets of friends. And so it's important to understand that that's part of the process, that as you're growing and changing, your friends, your companies will be changing as well. And that's perfectly fine. It's not selfish to want to surround yourself with people who bring out the best in you.
mm. I think people feel very conflicted in that because I live in Spain, so in Barcelona, and I think a lot of people have never left the city. They're kind of like have these friendship groups they've had all of their life, and they're very much in the comfort zone, and not much happens in the comfort zone. There's not much growth if you're, with the same friends you've had since you were 5, unless they are on the same kind of growth journey that you're on. So
Yes.
would you have any advice for someone in that situation where they really want to grow, but they feel conflicted about the people around them? They don't want to kind of get rid of them, but
Yeah.
mhm.
Maybe phase out. There's an
Okay.
exercise in the book, and in the workbook.
Mhm.
Review your influencers, which guides
Okay.
people through this step by step, and then they can get clarity over what people in my life I want to spend more time with, what people in my life I want to spend less time with, what people I don't want to spend time with at all. And that doesn't mean that you send them an email and say, like, I'm no longer gonna talk to you or anything like that. There are ways to do it, but it's about what we emphasize, who we want to spend more time with, and who we call back. um, and but also accepting that this is going to be part of the journey. It may feel like a sacrifice at
Mhm.
times, but if whenever you spend time with a particular person, you are taking steps away from the person you want to be, you are kind of going into ways of thinking that are not so helpful, you're going into bad habits, um, then not spending time with that person anymore means that you're going to feel better.
Mhm. Yeah. Especially with people, when I saw something yesterday, I think it was Mel Robbins, about gossip. That's very indicative of, when people start gossiping about someone else, you know that they're doing it when you're not there. And Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
or negative speak. That's something that's really contagious. Even people who are successful can have negative mindsets, and that's very, you know, or complaining. Those are things too.
Complaining, that's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing I really love about the book is that you don't really give specific instructions about habits. It's more about you giving ideas so people can come up with their own plan. I mean, there's so many books are giving you kind of frameworks to take on, and I really love that. Do you want
Mm.
to share anything about that? About how do you think everyone just finds their own path?
Well, in the book, I share just the basic principles
Mm.
for building habits. You know, you need to select the cue for the habit, something that is going to be reliable and that you can connect that habit with. You need to start small with what I call a minimum action, and then you can expand over time. And you need to have a reward. And unlike most books on habit building out there, I really emphasize what I call intrinsic rewards, which is learning how to enjoy the activity for its own sake.
Mm.
So for a simple example, instead of uh, putting some mayonnaise based sauce on the salad so that you can eat the salad, what if we learn how to enjoy salad for its
Mm.
own sake, right? Then we don't need an external reward. It's not like, oh, I eat a big plate of salad and then I can have a bit of chocolate. No, I eat a big plate of salad because I feel it's good for me, and that's enough. No, so that's more the intrinsic reward side of things. And then using those basic principles, people can understand what is the most important habit in each area of their life and start building those habits. Then what's different about my approach is that I emphasize what I call the never zero commitment.
That's my next
That for the
question.
most,
Perfect.
right, that for the most important habits, you need a non-negotiable commitment, and that is an exercise of willpower. That's an exercise of determination, that you say, you know what, for the next 100 days or for the next 30 days, I'm going to do this one thing no matter what. You know, I'm going to read 5 pages of a book for the next 100 days no matter what, or I'm going to meditate 10 minutes no matter what, or I'm not going to have any sugar for the next 30 days no matter what. And you get a commitment that is fairly easy, not easy, but that is doable, that it doesn't require a lot of willpower. But then your commitment to it is non-negotiable. It's that no matter what. And when you do that with one habit, your self-confidence increase. You realize like, oh wow, I didn't know I could do this, but I can. And then you can do it with more difficult challenges as well.
Mm. Yes, it's like doing something rather than nothing. So it's never a zero.
Mm,
Mhm.
right.
And I loved the fact that you talk a lot about meditation at the end, and I like that you acknowledged all forms of meditation, how they are valid. Because there are lots of meditation snobs, you know, like saying only this one or
All
affirmations
right.
count. Or I've had
Yes.
people say that to me as well. Oh, if it's not TM, if it's not la la la, it's not real meditation, or if it's not in complete silence. I think people are very
Yes.
have a lot of misconceptions about meditation. I think it's emptying your mind, not thinking about anything, and that seems not very attainable. How can meditation help us with our self-discipline?
Meditation is like the gym for the mind.
Mm.
It's focused mental training, right? So every time you sit to meditate, you are training your awareness and you are training your willpower. And these are the two key components of self-discipline. So it's like really you are training these skills. And then when you are in your day-to-day life, you are naturally more aware, or you have the ability to become more aware, which means that you will be living more purposefully, more mindfully. You will be making better decisions. You will be more aware of your goals when making choices. And then you have more willpower because you're training willpower when you meditate. If you try to focus on your breath continuously, moment after moment, that requires some willpower. If it requires willpower, it's training willpower. So then when you're meeting temptation on where you really don't feel like taking action because it's uncomfortable, you are procrastinating, you have that willpower available to take a step forward toward your aspirations to get that +1.
Mhm. Okay, and I mean, how do you think spirituality can help us with our productivity? Because I like the way
Yeah,
you talk about spirituality at the end. So how can that help us with our career goals?
Yes. And so there are many different approaches in spirituality. There's so many different teachers, philosophies, paths, and practices. Some of them are going to be helpful. Some ways of approaching spirituality are going to be helpful for also us achieving our uh, goals in life. Others, no. Others will either ignore this aspect of life or kind of um, go against it. Right. So
Mhm.
obviously, being a self-disciplined person and having written this book, my approach to spirituality is one that is more life affirming. It's one that gives us tools not only for us to experience peace of mind and expand our awareness, etc., but also for us to live better in the world. Right. And so at the end of the book, that's I have a chapter dedicated to this, sharing different ways how spirituality can help us be more disciplined. Some that come to mind, spirituality emphasizes values and practicing certain values and certain virtues. And that's very connected to self-discipline. Spirituality requires self-discipline, and therefore it trains that. Spirituality can help us have greater peace of mind. And when we have greater peace of mind, we are more balanced inside, and we tend to make better decisions. Nobody gives up on their goal when they're feeling happy and peaceful and empowered, right? They give up on their goal when they're feeling distressed, when they're feeling hopeless, when they're feeling sad or irritated. So anything that helps us have a more stable and happier state of mind will help us achieve goals in other areas of life. And also this idea that comes from some spiritual traditions that we are here for a reason, we are here for a purpose, and learning how to achieve that purpose, how to live that purpose, that is also part of spiritual growth. So our spirituality needs to help us achieve our meaningful goals. And every time we do that, we outgrow those needs. So if a person is really focused on, for example, earning money, right? But they also have a spiritual mindset, or they are cultivating that. After a certain point in that journey, they feel like it's enough. Like I don't, that desire is finished. Like I don't feel, obviously I need money to pay the bills, but I don't feel motivated to just earn more and create more businesses, etc. I've kind of outgrown that. But if that person had never developed the self-discipline to actually achieve that goal, that thing would always be inside of them. And it wouldn't let you focus on deeper things. And so in a way, by helping people become more disciplined and therefore more effective in achieving their goals in career, finances, etc., we're helping them grow
Mhm.
spiritually too.
Yeah, when I had my spiritual awakening in 2017, it really had a huge impact on my work and my perspective on my work. For example, before that time, I was thinking, how much can I get paid for this work? 'Cause I'm a content creator, so I was always writing or yeah, writing maybe or making videos. And then after that point, I was thinking, what can I contribute? So it completely changed. And I took myself out of the equation and I just considered myself more of a channel of what can I do to help today or to help people feel better. It's a really different approach. I wasn't just thinking about, task for money. It got a lot deeper.
Mm,
Mhm.
yes.
And I wrote something down here. Let me see. Oh yeah, I just recently interviewed someone who has the complete opposite message from you, which is so interesting for me. This guy called Connor Keyes, he's a spiritual guide. He's very into Taoism, and the tree just grows and just being and not doing. And he references the Tao Te Ching, especially verse 37 about everything is done, even if you do nothing, everything kind of gets done. So I'm kind of like, it was really interesting to have that influence while I was reading your book as well, because I think I'll probably need to find a balance of that. And let me explain a bit my situation because why I need to self-discipline so much. Because I've always felt that I could achieve great things if I had more self-discipline. But at the same time, I've been working for myself for 15 years. And one of the best parts of my life, which is actually why I started this podcast about lifestyle, is that I have no alarm in the morning for 15 years. And I just love that feeling of just because I was never a good sleeper. So not having the alarm just takes away a lot of anxiety for me. It doesn't mean I sleep more. I kind of get up at decent times, so to speak, but I feel very rested and start my day with meditation and reading, and it's very nice. But then I honor my biorhythms. For example, on a day with no makeup, I'm thinking I'm going to write today, or on days where I feel like being seen, I'll make videos. So I've been very much kind of just in a flow of just honoring feelings rather than goals. So then I think, wow, I could have done so much more with a more of a stricter kind of framework. And also with a freelance life, I'm writing a book now. So I'm trying to write a book and then balance some other paid work. And as a freelancer, you always have to do some business development as well. So I'm just
Mhm.
really spinning many, many plates, and I'm kind of in surrounded by chaos. So what advice would you give to me?
Yes, that's a really good question. And yes, of all spiritual traditions, Taoism is probably the most different from the message of self-discipline. At the same time, Taoism is a very broad tradition, and inside that tradition, you find, for example, the Taoist martial arts.
Hmm.
The, and so the Taoism of like, the pure Tao Te Ching is one thing, but there are people who are Taoists to the heart and they practice martial arts, and you bet they have a lot of self-discipline and they do practices at given times of the day, etc. Um, and so the way I see this is that there are different forms of spirituality for different people. For someone who is not goal oriented at all, maybe like there's nothing that I want, I just want to kind of relax and be in the moment, I'll say try Taoism. That's probably you're
Okay.
probably going to like that.
Mhm.
But for someone who still has a song they want to sing, so to speak, then you will need to put in work. Like for the caterpillar to become the butterfly, it needs to package, not package, it needs to break the shell, right? It needs to do some work. It just doesn't stay there and then it becomes a butterfly by itself. No, there's work, there's movement. Life is movement, and movement is always happening outside of us and inside of us. And the
Mhm.
idea is, if you have a sense of purpose, meaning if you have an aspiration about how the movement should flow so that it flows in a certain direction and you get in a certain place, then that's where the idea of self-discipline comes in. Then you're kind of disciplining the movement. That doesn't mean that every moment of your life is going to be disciplined by the clock. No, you need to find, every person needs to find a balance that works for them. In some areas of life, self-discipline is more naturally a good idea, let's say in career and finances and health, than in other areas of life, such as relationships. Like if you bring self-discipline into relationships, it becomes stiff and non-spontaneous. On the other hand, if you are completely spontaneous about your health habits, most people will be spontaneously eating a lot of cheesecake.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
it's a balance. It's not always following the feelings,
Mhm.
but in some aspects you allow yourself to follow the feelings, in other aspects you follow the goal, and in any case you make that decision with awareness.
I think for me, what I've noticed the distinction after speaking to him and speaking and reading your book is that the feeling has to be a plus one kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be something that's taking me to the bigger
Right,
picture. Yeah.
right. uh, and yes, otherwise, teenagers who are doing lots of drugs, they're also following their feelings.
Yeah, that's the
um,
danger with pleasure because pleasure, because feelings, following the feeling, a lot of bad things do feel good. So
mhm. Yes,
definitely places.
if that wasn't the nature of life, if
Mm.
all the good and noble things felt pleasant and all the things that are not good for us felt unpleasant, then we don't need to talk about self-discipline. But because that's not the nature of life, we need to bring in some intentionality into our
Mm.
choices.
I think something that's very motivating for me is the small victories along the way, because I always like to try and document and or even make, take note of my progress in different things. So it's really, it's like
Mm.
let's say if you're doing sports, like now I've been going to the gym for about 6 weeks and now I can get heavier kettlebells and you know what I mean? It's just like a really good feeling when you notice progress. you know.
Hmm.
That's what keeps you going.
Absolutely.
And that
Yeah.
feels
You're getting
amazing.
momentum.
Definitely. Definitely. Okay, a couple of quick questions I ask all of my guests. Oh yeah, I had to ask you this as well because I saw this in a couple of times in your book. Getting up at 2:30 a.m. That jumped out from the page. After my no alarm life, I was feeling, 'cause I've had this question in my life, should I start getting up early? So I don't think I'll be getting up. I live in Spain, so you probably know what Spanish life is like. People are still awake at that time, from the night before.
Yeah.
So what time do you
So
go to bed?
yeah, I didn't it's not that my whole life I've been waking up at 2:30. I've been doing that for maybe the past um 3 years now. Before that, I was waking up at like 5:30.
Uh,
But the only way I can do this is because I practice biphasic sleeping, which I get my 7 hours,
oh.
which I need 7 hours. I get it in two chunks. I sleep 5 hours in the evening from 9:30 to 2:30, and then 2 hours late morning. So at the end of this podcast, I'm going to have my 2 hour nap. And
Mm.
like this, I have sleep, 8 hours of activity, sleep, 8 hours of activity. And it becomes a nice balance and rhythm for me.
I think I heard that some people used to that's how people used to sleep in the past. Have you heard about that? I've heard that.
Yes, I've
Yeah.
I've read that that was the case before there was electricity.
Mm.
In most cases, either it was a long siesta, or they would go to sleep right after sunset, spontaneously wake up in the middle of the night, do some writing, do some work, and then after a few hours go to sleep again. So they call it the first sleep and the second sleep. But yeah,
Mm.
that apparently that's how many cultures used to sleep.
And there's something magical about 3 a.m., isn't there? Like in the spiritual world, there's like there's like Rumi poem about don't go back to sleep. But I think at that time is amazing for concentration and how there's in general a lot of silence. That must really help
Yes.
with production.
Yeah, maybe not in Spain, but in the
Yeah,
rest of the
I think
world.
by 3 o'clock it's okay, but I mean, people are having dinner about 10, and people are kind of watching TV until 12:30. So I often wanted to kind of go to bed earlier, but it just seems to be incompatible with like the noise around me. So
Mm,
it's quite
yeah.
hard. Mm. Okay, a couple of questions I ask all everyone. That
Hmm.
wasn't the question I asked everyone, that's just you. But the book that changed your life, because I'm a big reader, so I'm always looking for new things. What is the book that changed your life?
Hmm. In terms of personal development book, I I really enjoyed Essentialism by
Uh-huh.
Greg McGowan and The One Thing.
Okay, I think someone else has mentioned essentialism to me. Is that if it's personal development? Okay, do you have any spiritual books?
So spiritual books, in different phases of my spiritual practice, it was different
Mm,
books. In the first phase that I was more in Buddhism, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Shunryu
mm.
Suzuki was very influential. Um, then there was a book called The Power of Tantra that
Okay,
was influential more recently. So yeah, these are two books that come to mind.
amazing. And what is the phrase, affirmation, or quote that you live by?
If you fill your mind with determination, there will be no place left for self-doubt.
I love that. I love it. So where can people find you?
You can go to highermind.com where you can learn about my books and an app that I have created helping people implement the books with guided meditations, etc.
Okay, great. No social media. Or your social media's on the website.
Well, yes, I mean, if you search for me in social media, you will find me. But if
Mm,
you write a comment, I'm not going to answer because I don't use
okay,
those services, with the exception of YouTube. If you write a
okay,
comment on YouTube, I'll be there and I'll answer.
amazing. So thank you so much for joining us today on the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. It's been a real pleasure.
Wonderful. Thank you, Venus.
The book I'm reading now is The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. I know this is an old book and lots of people have read it, but I've had this book on my bookshelf for 15 or 16 years, a very, very long time. And someone gave it to me, someone I worked with when I was working in luxury real estate. She told me all about the idea of the law of attraction, the concept of it, how it worked and how it changed her life. And then she came to my office one day and gave me her copy of The Secret. And I wasn't really a reader at the time. However, I did embody the lessons that she shared with me about the law of attraction. So I did start doing some practices at that time. And then I got very busy with life. So that was kind of cool. Anyway, I thought I would read the book. Well, it was about a month ago now, but it was so interesting to read a book about manifestation while I was writing my own book about manifestation. And I think the messaging in The Secret is amazing. It's so positive, so hopeful, lots of incredible stories, and also gives you power about thinking about, how our thoughts shape our existence, which I think I completely agree with. However, there's one thing I don't like too much about the law of attraction, and that is this pressure or emphasis on being upbeat and positive all the time, even if you're going through something challenging. I think challenges and difficulties and struggles are part of life. And even in those dark times in life, there are great lessons to be learned, gratitude, and always these things can redirect you to new horizons. Something that might seem bad can actually just be part of your journey. And I think it's important to just embrace sadness sometimes and just be able to process it so you can get it out of your system rather than being in denial when you are feeling down and having all this pressure on yourself to feel better. I went through something really, really, really challenging this year in February, March time. One of the really biggest challenges I've ever faced in my life. And what really helped me, I was just, I'm quite okay with expressing myself. If I need to cry, I just cry. And I always feel better about that. I couldn't imagine wanting to cry and then holding back and trying to kind of deny the expression of my emotions. Sometimes that can be a bit kind of inconvenient, especially if you're in a situation that might not be appropriate according to who though. But yeah, if I'm in public or something like that, sometimes I just wish I could control myself more sometimes. But at the end of the day, I just think you get it out and then it just feels better. So I was in this situation where it was quite challenging. However, something that I noticed that really helped me feel better no matter what challenges I was facing is music. Every morning when I wake up, I put my headphones on, my noise cancellation headphones, and I listen to salsa music or house music or Ibiza kind of house tunes from a long time ago, from the 90s or the early 2000s, and it just gets me going. I find myself dancing in the kitchen and just being full of life and full of joy no matter what is happening. So I think music is a great way to get us back into a state of joy, even if it's a challenging time. So that's something I've been using, and I haven't felt like I've been denying the pain I've been feeling, but it just kind of gives you that little boost to kind of get through the day. And yeah, so I love The Secret. It's been a great book to read. Also, I think it's good to keep reading the same messaging over and over so you kind of get it into your mind, into your practices, and into your subconscious. So it's been a great read for me just over this last month. And I wanted to share that with you today. So it's kind of interesting because it's been on my shelf for such a long time, and I've tried to get back in touch with the person who gave me that book, but we've lost contact. And I just want to tell her thank you that learning about the law of attraction has had a massive, profound effect on my life. And obviously now writing a book about manifestation has definitely been part of that journey. So yeah, the book I'm reading now, The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, and I'd recommend that to anyone who is interested in the law of attraction, manifestation, and thinking positive. Now it's time to slow things down as we prepare for this episode's guided affirmations meditation. It's probably not a good idea to listen to this while driving or operating machinery. Instead, take a break from whatever you're doing, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and enjoy. I am disciplined and focused. Every action I take aligns with my goals. I choose self-discipline over procrastination. procrastination. I am in control of my habits. I prioritize my tasks. I manage my time effectively. Self-discipline is my superpower. I am disciplined and focused. Every action I take aligns with my goals. I am committed to my personal growth. I am committed to my success. I stay consistent in my efforts every day. I resist distractions and stay dedicated to my goals. Self-discipline is my superpower. I am disciplined and focused. Every action I take aligns with my goals. I embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. I am unstoppable. I am determined to achieve my goals. Every day I am becoming more disciplined in my actions and decisions. Self-discipline is my superpower. I am disciplined and focused. Every action I take aligns with my goals. I have the power to control my impulses. I have the power to stay on track towards success. I embrace challenges as opportunities to strengthen my self-discipline. I am in control of my habits. Self-discipline is my superpower. I am disciplined and focused. Every action I take aligns with my goals. My habits serve my highest good. My self-discipline grows stronger every day. Every choice I make is in alignment with my goals. I am capable of overcoming distractions. Self-discipline is my superpower. Do you want to upgrade your life? If so, check out my free meditation, my Life Upgrade Meditation. This meditation is very powerful. It contains 100 very powerful affirmations that correspond to the 12 areas of life from the Wheel of Life. And those areas include things like money, professional career, friends, family, relationships, sexuality, personal development, contribution to society, home environment, and much more. If you're curious about this very powerful transformative meditation, then check out the link in the show notes. And if you haven't got the show notes at hand, then the link is bit.ly/life, capital LIFE, hyphen, capital UPGRADE, upgrade, hyphen, meditation with a capital M. The link is also in the show notes. So if you would like to upgrade your life, check out my free Life Upgrade Meditation. find out more about me and my orgasmic lifestyle, visit venusohara.org or follow me on Instagram at instagram.com/venusohara. Make sure to search for the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for listening, have an orgasmic week, and make sure every day is a climax.